Welcome to the April 21st, 2023 meeting of the Capital Area Architectural and Planning Board. I call this meeting to order. Thank you all for making the time for multiple board meetings this spring. This hybrid meeting is being live streamed on the board's YouTube page, where a recording will remain following the meeting. Given the blend of in-person and virtual attendees, we will continue to conduct votes via roll call. And I will now take the roll to establish that we have a quorum. Vice Chair Badgerow.
Aye.
Dr. Bean.
Aye.
Ms. Belton.
Aye.
Mr. Garrett. Ms. Hills.
Aye.
Representative Cleaborn.
Present.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Senator Nelson. Senator Pappas.
She's updated. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Present. I see you. Thank you.
Present.
Representative Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Yang.
Present.
And I am also present, so we have a quorum. So our first and major focus of this meeting is the board's determination of the compliance of the renovation and expansion of the state office building and other proposed investments in the capital area. Board staff have prepared a memo with their analysis and recommendations, and I'm glad to hear that the study session last week on this topic was well attended. We have considerable time this afternoon for discussion before we may vote. So, Executive Secretary, could you please start with an overview of the staff analysis and recommendation?
Yes, thank you, everybody. Glad to be here today. And I'm going to go through and remind everybody about the state office building project, highlighted slides, and the capital rights investments that we're looking at today as well. Now, you've received information on these before, but I just want to review them one last time in case any of you missed them. Could go to the fourth slide. Right, as you know, there has been legislation introduced this session for a number of important capital rights investment initiatives. And it provides kind of a holistic approach to advancing many important elements of our comprehensive plan, particularly in the capital rights area. And those are an update to the Capital Mall design framework. It would be $1 billion for a planning study with people and expertise, landscape design, engineering, memorials, wayfinding, and then $5 million for the priorities for first implementation. That is also in the governor's budget. The second item is $25 million proposed for redesign and construction of Rice Street, going from Pennsylvania Avenue on the north down to the I-94. I'll do a highlight slide for each of these. There's the Capital Area Community Vitality Task Force, $150,000 for economic development consultants and experts to support the task force study, and then $5 million to be invested as the task force determines is appropriate. Keep getting a pop-up on my screen. There's also a proposal to create 2 new open spaces in the southwest and northeast corners of Rice University that would offset the loss of space in Lee Erickson Park. And the request that any redevelopment of the Ford site, the Ford building site and lots next to it would include some ground floor locally owned businesses. Next. So this is the Capital Mall Design Framework update. You can see the different types of expertise we would be looking to engage in that study. This is really, really exciting. This plan is 32 years old. It provides the framework for all of the investments and the work that are done by the state, the Department of Administration, for everything from what kind of trees to plant to where memorials are arranged on campus, benches, lighting, and kind of thinking about What sort of events do we want people to have there, and how can we design it to be conducive to them? Next. So this shows the shift of open space that would be lost to the addition of the state office building to propose new locations at the southwest and northeast corners of Rice and University. It states their sizes are generally identified in the legislation. They would have to be combined a minimum of 3.17 acres, which is what space is lost to the state office building. The exact configuration of those and how they are to be used will be determined during the capital mall framework update. So that we're really making sure we're looking holistically at the mall, the remainder of Leif Erikson Park, all the different spaces across the campus, the functions they serve and how they relate to one another. The second piece is the requirement that a redeveloped building at this corner be mixed use and have ground floor retail. The big intent of that is to really create more vitality and activity at this really important corner. And a place that brings together people from the community and visitors of the Capitol to eat, dine, whatever. Next. We have the Capitol area community vitality account. I mentioned $150,000 to support a task force and economic development consultants to come up with a plan for investing $5 million. This one really advances a lot of the work that was done during the comprehensive planning effort, conversations with community members, people from the city, and others talking about what does this area really need to be healthy. And the opportunity to do this just be really exciting. And we definitely want that to be kind of a community-driven effort, but the task force is there to work with. We have the Rice Street redesign and construction. What I didn't mention here is you can see a little leg at the top that just goes a one block segment of Como that joins the Rice Street intersection there. The goals are to reduce kind of the overall size of Rice Street for cars, to make it easier for bicyclists and pedestrians to move there, more landscaping, and just make it more of a Main Street feel. All right, now let's turn attention to the state office building. You've had an opportunity to get lots of handouts, see presentations on this. So I'm really just going to share a few images to remind everybody about the project proposed. And this is a view, I guess if you were standing at the very top of the dome, looking down on the state office building. So you see the leftmost rectangle, that's the current building. So the wing in the middle and the new arm to the right, which is the north, would be the addition. Next. This is the view if you were in a drone from another direction. And so you can see here that there's an entry that would have a vehicular turnaround coming off of Rice Street on the backside. The idea of kind of a large atrium-like space through the center where the public would be able to move into and then to various parts of the building. Next. This is an image of very large committee room. Am I getting this right? So one of the big focuses of this project is to address the small committee rooms right now, the lack of having enough committee rooms, having ones that are accessible to people with disabilities. So this and other renovations happening in the state office building have been something that people have been pursuing for a very, very long time. They have not been funded before. So all of this design is based on talking in depth to the tenants of the building and finding out their needs. Would you like to add something, Representative?
one of the biggest pieces about these meeting rooms is the safety aspect.
Safety.
Safety is huge because once we're in those rooms, there's no way to get out of them. When you have people standing, it's much easier to come forward or to pull a weapon or to have a concussive explosion in that smaller confined space, as I understand it. So safety is a huge piece of it. It's not just that we have comfort, but safety is paramount.
Right. That's true for the whole renovation.
Yes.
And addition. Yes, thank you. And you can see that these rooms feature some big open windows to give you views over to the Capitol. Next. And these are 3 images. I put them on one slide. Again, some different spaces where you'd have good views to the outside. I think what's important in the top left and the right, which are the same space viewed from different angles, is putting, there's a name for it, I'm sure, but essentially kind of a rounded facade on that north end of the building facing out to Leif Erikson statue. And having a door there that people can come and go. That had not been part of the design when CAP board staff and advisors first started looking at this. There's input from us and also from other important stakeholders who said, we'd really like that side of the building to feel very open and welcoming, because a lot of people who come to the building are coming from the direction of Ryerson University. So I'm pleased to see this feature added. So just hold on there for a moment. I think we talked about in the information session, there were other design elements that staff and advisors encouraged the design team to look at. In particular, I sent in the packet was information about the idea of an open air archway that would go through the building where the atrium is. Mr. Meyerson here had analyzed that from the standpoint of security, and the speaker had really thought about it. That was determined not to meet kind of the security goals for the building. Yes. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm curious, this door being added and then thinking about that memo that you sent regarding security, what's the update on how the security will work with a new door here, but not with the archway? Is there?
Yeah. I'll just say one thing and then, yeah. We did talk about how this building's going to be around a long time. And at different points in history, we have higher security concerns or lower security concerns. And so thought was put into designing different egress points that could have their own security. And if there are times when they want the building to maybe have fewer openings, an entrance like this can be locked. So the hope is that you're not just designing it for one point in time, but that it has flexibility to meet the needs of who's in there depending on what's happening.
I think this addition is a good addition as well for that safety component. It can have monitoring done on it at this level, but with the archway, one of the big concerns that I read was that you have emergency services going in at the exact same point of entry. You have people trying to vacate the building. Also with the archway, as I understand it, you have people coming in who might be monitored, but then they're splitting and going in opposite directions. So it's much harder to follow the flow of a bad actor through the archway. Is it to the right or left? Whereas this, there's only one direction they can't go. And so I think from that perspective, this opening at this end of the building is much safer and more easily secured. And what people don't know is when we have large gatherings at the Capitol, and maybe just say,
I will, Representative, I'll ask Mr. Meyerson to chime in here.
yeah,
We're on deck, Mr. Meyerson.
yeah. We often will have security up high where things can be observed, but the public aren't aware that it can be observed. And that's all I'll say. And I think this is a point where that comes something similar.
Thank you. Mr. Myerson, would you like to speak to this? Would you mind joining us at the table to speak to your memo? Thank you. And I'll just go ahead and give you some money right here. So I'm wondering if you could just speak to a security feature or the change that needed to be made.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. And it's kind of difficult sometimes in public forums speaking to specifically about some of the security concerns that we have, but I'll try to do so in kind of broad general terms so you have appreciation. We're keeping a close eye towards any modifications and implications for security, recognizing, potential threats and trying to minimize the amount of risk that we're going to assume by putting some things in and trying to meet the balance between the optics and accessibility that we really want to ensure is there, but also having an infrastructure that accommodates the needs of the people that are securing the building, State Patrol, Sergeant of Arms office. So I couldn't hear all of it, but we're discussing, but I know that there's the major change is having that opening on the north end. And I appreciate what the concern is with that, we basically have a stone wall there. And now we've had something that has potential in reality and perception to be open and welcoming on the north end. But we will have to give consideration to the security processes, with the staffing, because one of the ideals of this whole building project is we have a single point of access so that our security professionals have an opportunity to put eyes on and see everyone who's coming into the building. That's not precluding people from coming into the building. It doesn't obstruct anyone's ability, but we have an opportunity because that's a key function of security is being able to witness who's coming in. And it's a deterrent factor as well as, gives the ability to respond if something should happen. So this does create, on one hand, another opening, which is a good thing. It's desired, but it does create a challenge for securing the building. And I don't know what the level of access. It does give us the ability, though, to slide back and forth or having that on the front end. And one isn't so beautiful because it can be minimally an emergency egress. I don't know if that answers the question. I'm sorry, I have a hard time hearing.
You can just introduce yourself for people online so they know who you are.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm Bob Myerson. I'm the former Sergeant of Arms for the House of Representatives, and I'm currently been retained to give some advice and perspective on security and logistics. Prior to being the Sergeant of Arms, I was with the State Patrol and had oversight of capital security and the protective detail for the executive branch. So I kind of have a little bit of depth of experience and insight into the environment, and happy to answer questions. And it's my perspective dealing with the security, in a broad sense on the Capitol complex, and now more refined within the state office building and House of Representatives.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Myerson. I appreciate the work that you're doing now, and as a recovering House member, I appreciate it to keep us safe. Thank you. And welcome, Mr. Garrett.
Hello.
All right, with this, I will go into talking about comprehensive plan compliance. Oh, yes, sorry.
Sorry, no, I just had a quick question on that. I appreciate that and the perspective and understand there's a lot of balance that has to go on with a lot of different things we have to consider. But I really appreciate another entrance on this side. Sometimes I'm a little directionally challenged, but I'm just trying to think. So there's a light rail stop there. That would potentially be a natural. If that is a entrance, that would potentially be a natural entrance for somebody who is coming to the Capitol for via light rail, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people come through that intersection anyway, whether from parking lots or whatnot. So it's really nice to see that addition.
Yeah. If you turn to the first slide of the series of photos, you can see sort of the light rail stop and where that will go.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
That
on
is.
the right side.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a nerd and I've got my far between my book. But yes, right there. Thank you.
Last board meeting, and at the information session that we had a little over a week ago, Peter and I talked about the comprehensive plan analysis for compliance. That you can look at it through a small lens, so you can look through it from a larger holistic lens. So when you think about the comprehensive plan, it really is a whole set of policies and priorities that together have synergy to make a lot of important things happen in the capital area, be they state areas or the neighborhoods around us. So in looking at this project, we have the state office building itself, and then there are these other legislative initiatives that I mentioned as well. And what the other initiatives do is they really change the context for what's happening around the state office building and Leif Erikson Park. So when the comprehensive plan was done, there was the goal that Leif Erikson Park and Rice Street would kind of be these unifying elements of the capital area's western campus and the district. And each was identified to be improved and enhanced with several functions. With the addition to the state office building moving into Leif Erikson Park, that shifts what how that vision would be moving forward. So with adding open spaces with careful design through the Capital Mall framework, through Capital Rice investments and the Community Vitality Fund, you suddenly are doing a lot of different things around here that address really important parts of the comprehensive plan. So on whole, you see the comprehensive plan really moving forward in a very positive way. So I'll quickly go through each chapter, and I want to give a huge shout out to Peter. I hope you read that memo in detail. He spent many hours doing detailed analysis of every single chapter and strategy, and it was a lot to try to distill the highlights here. So principle one, the print is small, so I'll just read each principle aloud. As Minnesota's seat of government and destinations for thousands each year, the capital area offers the highest quality experience to visitors. So when we're looking at this package of items, what we're seeing that seems quite compatible with helping to fulfill that vision is there a lot of activities that would improve the visitor experience to the area and improve what's happening for the community around us. We're improving some of the connections between the campus and the neighborhood. So we lose one of our kind of direct diagonal connections to the state office building addition, but there is the intent to work very hard on the other connections and make those work well, making the capital feel more welcoming and upgrading kind of the overall experience. Next. So principle 2 of the comprehensive plan, which is coming, states that the Capitol building and mall are central to the identity of St. Paul and are a unifying focal point for the city, as Cass Gilbert once envisioned. So this is where we really lean into the Capitol Mall design framework, and to some extent the Capitol Rice corridor, to do adjustments in the wayfinding, the movement patterns, how spaces are designed for people, landscaping, events in what's left of Leif Erikson Park and across the campus and the mall. Again, we're looking for those improved connections, making the campus feel very welcoming to people and upgrading the overall experience of it with great designs and investment. Principle 3. The capital area is a model for Minnesota where best practices are expected in the planning, design, and development of public and private projects. So the capital mall design framework, capital rights corridor, can enable campus and Rice Street improvements that incorporate community aspirations and meet goals of the city, the county, and the state. And this is really the chapter and the principle that looks at that holistic lens. So what are all the things that we're doing together that achieve these goals? Next. For the entire capital area provides an integrated, high quality, human scale public realm experience. So the shortcomings of the state office building design in addition are that it does impact the space of Lee Erickson Park, which has been there for some time. It adds a mass in a space where there used to be more direct east-west connectivity and visual experiences between Rice Street and the Capitol and the campus. And so what you really want to be doing then is figuring out again, what are those design things that you need to focus on to try to mitigate the change in that experience and to make it good. We're looking at the Capitol Rice corridors, particularly offering transformative capabilities. Principle 5, the capital area is an urban multimodal district seamlessly connected to destinations. The Capitol Rice corridor funding is going to enable us to do improvements to transit, mobility, introducing station areas, which are already planned, but now, we'll be able to really lean into the design and quality of those, and pedestrian improvements. All of these things help to hopefully to reduce people coming to campus in single occupancy vehicles. So that meets the larger sustainability goals of reducing vehicle trips to campus, having cleaner air quality, and just having a good experience of movement for people in all different modes. And finally, the chapter we look at is chapter 7A. This is the Capitol Rice Development Framework. And I'm going to read these two statements aloud more for people online, but these are a couple quotes from the development framework. The Capitol Rice District is an urban village with Lee Erickson Park at its center. The most significant potential for development in the capital area in the next 10 years is within the Capitol Rice District. At the center is the LRT station and Lee Erickson Park with a growing vibrancy and unique sense of place, integrated with a mobility hub for workers, community members, and Capitol visitors. So again, we run into that shortcoming of the inconsistency with the reduction in the size of Lee Erickson Park and fundamental change in the experience that was envisioned in the comp plan, but the introduction of all of these other investments that change that context. And overall, advance many, many important elements of the comprehensive plan. Next slide. With that. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Secretary. We first start with any questions from board members about the substance of what has been presented. This would also be a good time for any remaining questions for the project team as well. And then we can get into the conversation with the discussion of the resolution. Yes.
I'm so sorry, you just exited out. I was curious if you could go back to that one of the slides of the building, either angle. Because one of the things that I've been frustrated with the architectural renderings is that it leaves out key things that are on the grounds. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't recall seeing the parking structure and how that will relate in the drawings.
The parking structure for the SOB. Oh, yes.
It's there.
Yeah.
There's not any cars on it. But
Okay.
if we can go back.
Sorry, I just wanted to
That's
get it in my head.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So it's really important to see that
Yeah, so
So it's that white blob.
in the back.
Okay.
So it's a lower height
Okay.
than the state office building itself. And just as a reminder to everybody, the question has come up, why wasn't the parking structure evaluated as part of the overall project? And it was explained that the reason for that is the original enabling legislation for this project was specific to buildings built before a certain year. And the parking ramp had been built after that year and therefore was not eligible to be part of this project. And sorry, one other quick note before we jump into board discussion, just a reminder that the focus today for the board is, do you feel that the state office building and the capital area investments sufficiently advance the objectives of the comprehensive plan and that they're found to be in substantial compliance? That determination is a precursor for deciding whether or not the board proceeds to do the rezoning for the property, not just the state office building property, but those two other proposed areas, and whether it does the design and zoning permit review.
So this is a step in a series of next steps. That's an important reminder. Thank you. Additional questions about the substance? Representative Cleveland.
Yeah, I just have a question. So when I was reading through the sections, and thank you, Mr. Muskietes, I found this to be very, very helpful here in memo. One of the things that I thought about, and this has to do with the walk that we took in the very beginning, is in the discussion here. I keep thinking about these 5 pieces together. And as I look at the 5 pieces together, is it in your opinion, and I haven't asked you this before, so you're right. I'm just trying to be real clear about that. As I was thinking about it as I was listening to the description. Right now, when I come to the Capitol complex, right, and I'm a legislator coming in from a suburban district, I come in, I park in the garage, and then I go into the SOB, and then I tunnel. Right, might go to transportation for lunch, might go to, when I look at this collective package, right, I can see where we could come out of the new expanded SOB, walk across to the north side of University, have some opportunity to support a local business, right, walk along that northern side of University, and then go into the Senate office building to do whatever work I might need to have. Right now, I just go through the tunnel, don't ever come outside, right? And then when thinking about turning the double A lot, the parking lot that the state owns, into green space, that's a side of the street I never have a reason to cross, but it could be an opportunity. So what I'm saying is this has, for me, as I'm looking at it, has opportunity to draw me into other parts of the neighborhood and support other activities that are happening in the neighborhood. But I didn't see that in the write-up, that it kind of opens the space to the people who are actually visiting. You know, they come to the Capitol for a tour, they come to the Capitol for something else.
Right. Yeah, thanks. I think it was probably sort of backdrop of the write-up in some way, but that is absolutely one of the, I think, primary opportunities of these things coming together is to make that hub of Rice and University a place that looks nice, that feels nice, where people feel safe when they're there. There are things to do. And so people want to go there. And then the more people that go there, the more energy there is. And then other people feel comfortable in that space. And I think most exciting, it could be a way where we're really bringing together people who work at the state, people visiting with members of the community so that they're sharing spaces where they're shopping or they're sitting in an open space, doing some activity, whatever it is. So we'll really want to think hard about the design, particularly those 2 new open spaces, to figure out like what is the right thing that those spaces can do to create the experience of this coming together place that works for everyone.
Thank you.
Questions on the substance? The recommended resolution.
Now be the time to read a statement.
Certainly, actually, let's transition into the piece because I believe it's probably for the resolution as well. Okay, so let's transition to the discussion of the recommended resolution from board staff. I think it's important for us to have. Perfect. You can throw that up on the screen there. I'd suggest some open discussion before considering a motion and a vote. So go ahead and put that on the slide. Perfect.
Yeah, so at any point we're talking about the resolution, Peter can toggle back and forth between 1 of 5 pages, but I did in the papers I set up this morning, I included one piece of paper that's just the resolution in larger font. So as we're talking about things, if you have questions on details, you can look at this.
Thank you. Ms. Hill, I'll start with you, and then Ms. Fadro, I will go to you.
Start with Dana if we want. Pardon me, we can start with Dana.
Would you like to
Yeah.
start with Dana? I'm happy to do so. Absolutely. Vice Chair Fadro, go right ahead.
So who is starting here?
Yes, please go right ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair and members. I was in state government for quite some time, and I can't recall an opportunity like this that is as complex and multifaceted as this decision we have to make today. First, as I came to my thinking about this decision, the first thing I recognize is that above all, the state office building badly needs renovation. Having been a grandmother of the state capitol renovation, the state office building in many cases is just as derelict as the Capitol was. And obviously it also has some serious security issues. But that being said, it does still violate zoning and comprehensive plan issues. So here's so today, where are we? I think what we have in front of us is a set of really very exciting proposals to enhance the public experience of the Capitol. We'll revitalize some of the commercial areas surrounding the Capitol, provide additional wayfinding, green spaces for public gathering, et cetera, all those issues that have been raised here. So that leads me to conclude that just as in all cases, we have to balance. And I think here, I just commend staff for having done an amazing job of winding their way through all of these issues and coming up with a compromise that is substantial compliance. That notion of substantial compliance is compelling to me. And if we can get these other initiatives passed, I think we have a much better Capitol grounds at the end. While, of course, not all of those proposals are yet in law. But I've been reassured by conversations with the speaker and with the governor's office that they will become law and that they will become realities. So with that, I just wanted to share my thought process as I went through this. I believe that we have found a nice solution to a problem that solves a lot of problems.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, I had sent out yesterday and also your pile of papers today was an update on the different legislative efforts and where they're at. They're progressing very nicely and a lot of Paul Cummins who's with us today for providing that.
Ms. Hill, go right ahead. Okay.
First off, I am so incredibly grateful to everyone who took time out of their busy schedules to answer my questions, my many questions since the last working group, and to the CAP board staff for getting so much information out to us in such a short amount of time. I took on the block club role right before a complicated situation arose with Ramsey County and Fairview to use Bethesda as a homeless shelter, so I guess I should not have been surprised when the first issue I'm presented with as a member of the board is something that is very complicated. As a mayoral appointee to be a community representative, I see my role as one to speak for those who are impacted daily by decisions made for this area. I want to make it clear to everyone here why this is important. Those who reside in the Capital District are a part of St. Paul that I would describe as no man's land. There is so much overlap in jurisdiction between and even within the city, county, and state levels that no one takes responsibility for development and investment. Even private entities here are not focused on the local area. The vast majority are regional or statewide businesses or groups. We are on the edge of everything, so our experience is that decision makers look at this area and have plausible deniability to ignore the needs that impact day-to-day life. Instead of being the doorway to the Capitol and downtown, we are the doormat. It has been incredibly sad for me to see how we got to where we are today with the state office building proposal, and it is very difficult to explain it to people without taking up their entire afternoon. My role is to ask a lot of questions to understand the facts and then hear what people have to say when they come to their own conclusions so that I can best inform my decision for voting. I have tried my best to do my due diligence, and I recognize that there's room to grow. Everyone is in agreement that the state office building is in dire need of a complete renovation, likely even expansion, and safety overhaul. Everyone is also in agreement that the process by which we got here is completely unacceptable. I have seen that legislative buildings are a different beast compared to other state buildings. Another comprehensive legislative building project will likely not come up in any of our lifetimes. So this, because of these Capitol and Senate buildings being so recently renovated and built. So being put in the position of voting on something that bypassed the process is especially disheartening because I believe the process would have led to something uncontroversial, benefiting everyone and bringing beauty in the way envisioned by a diverse range of people in the comprehensive plan, more along the lines of what the Capitol project did. But the other options appear to be that the state building, either the state office building or nothing, or even potentially something worse. Please correct me if I am wrong. If there's some world in which we could have a guarantee that slowing down and reworking some of this would lead to a well-funded, functioning, safe, and beautiful building opening in the next 5 years. To be completely blunt, people are frustrated with the games both parties play, and both parties and all levels of government are to blame for us being where we are today. Political parties can't trust one another, and so when projects finally do move forward, they move forward from a place of fear. In my experience, fear-based decisions might get us something that functions, but fear-based decisions never get us the end result we actually want or that is best. It was a mix of fear, being uninformed, and being unaware that got us to today's meeting where the CAAPB board, in my opinion, has our hands tied in doing our stated mission to preserve and enhance the dignity, beauty, and architectural integrity of the Capitol and the Capitol area. This board is not infallible, and mistakes likely could have been made even with the board involved in the process. But mistakes were certainly made on the road to where we are today, and those mistakes are driving the direction of this project without any opportunity to give checks and balances that the people paying for this project, the citizens of Minnesota, deserve. It is an understatement to say that this project is huge, and the ripple effects of both moving forward or not moving forward with the project are far-reaching. I do not appreciate being put in a time constraint where I can ask questions, but the answers are essentially that everything has been decided and nothing can be done to amend much at this point. I also do not appreciate having the promise of displaced green space, finding a home elsewhere, but not having any sort of study done to understand how or even if it will actually work. I don't appreciate being told that it's a high priority to have economic funding available to an area that desperately needs it, but no working plan to see what that money will actually do. I really appreciate the work that Representative Cleathorn and the Speaker have done in putting the legislation forward. But sadly, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that it looks great on paper and is implemented poorly or ignoring the community even more. I do not appreciate being presented with two bad options: a pretentious building that will shift the comprehensive plan in ways we aren't yet aware, or an unsafe building in terms of the physical structure as well as security for both the elected officials and hundreds of lay people who work in various government departments. I'm a stay-at-home mom and have been thinking about this vote while raising 3 kids. I've been questioning how I will raise my children to think well about murky issues like this, as well as how I might counsel them if they came to me in the future with an issue like this. Needless to say, it's been a couple of rough nights of sleep. I wish things would have been done differently. We deserve to be looking at a plan that included more voices and one with more public survey results. But we are voting today based on where we are, and I look forward to working toward as positive a future as possible, no matter where things land today.
additional discussion? Oh,
So I appreciate your comments. So they were beautifully said. I'm sitting here trying not to tear up. But thank you so much, and Ms. Badger as well. For me, I appreciate all the work that has been done to think about the broader comprehensive plan and what are we giving up as a result of this? And I'll have to say that I'm a little disappointed at where we're at right now. I think not having that green space is an issue for a number of reasons. I think the size of the building, and I also think where the building is situated, compromises what that green space could ultimately be as an urban village that connects the whole Sears development. That Sears development project is going to be a huge asset in this community. And how do we connect that space with the Capitol Mall experience? That green space is key to doing that. If we look at the size of the building being proposed, I have to admit that I was a bit surprised that we were so far along in design development. I thought we were going to have opportunity to speak on, how the building was being put together. Please be clear that I am fully aware that that building needs some work. From daylighting for the staff that experiences every day, for the people that come in and come to the hearing rooms, that experience is important. So the deferred maintenance issues that keep going on and on and on, those need to be resolved. So there's no question here that there needs to be a new building. My bigger issue is just the size of the building and where it's placed. So I think it's a missed opportunity for us to really explore. I know this is late in the game, another location for that. The way it's sized now, it's 415 feet long. That's long. That major access in the Capitol building is 430 feet long. So you're thinking about the sizing and the mass of that building on that site. This is going to be a long-term project. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective on that. And, we'll look forward to it.
Senator Pappas, please go right ahead.
Thank you all very much. I'm just lowering my hand. I am, have to say, as the legislator, the senator represents this area, I'm extremely, extremely excited of the attention that we're getting on the Capitol Mall and on the Capitol neighborhood through the entry, really, of the renovation and expansion of the state office building. It's been a long time coming. And I think that the overall picture is so, so very important. And I want us to kind of not let the perfect be the enemy of the very, very good. I'm super excited about the possibilities of the Ford building space that could create a very strong tie to the neighborhood. And already many of us are talking about a food court, a multi-ethnic little shops and businesses that could be there. We all know that we have dozens of food trucks now that are lining up, but what do we do in the winter for food at the Capitol? The Rice Street development, to make that a major entry to the Capitol and not be kind of the sad street it is now. I'm super excited about that. I think there's been a very conscious effort to replace the loss of green space with other clear opportunities, plus creating a canopy on the Capitol lawn that has shade for visitors who come here, all spring and all year round, really, for demonstrations and activities, to be able to not have that burning sun on them and to have that canopy. I mean, I think looking at the whole picture is so amazing. And to have all these bills really moving, it's not like a wish list. They are all really moving in the Capitol and at the Senate and the House, and we're really committed to getting it done. So I have to admit, I was very cautious in the beginning that I felt like the CAP board wasn't included soon enough. We worked really hard to make sure that would happen this winter and this spring. And I'm super pleased with the outcome and am a very strong supporter of this plan.
Thank you. And thank you, members. I think this has been a very good discussion, and I especially appreciated the voices from those locally live here, who work here. And that's been eye-opening, and I've learned and been educated a bunch about the impacts to this planning process here. And I mentioned it at our working session, but the involvement and engagement of multiple voices makes a good project. And so as we look at this one, I'm very concerned, and to just kind of place it around what is before us today. I think that especially Advisor Bjornberg at our the first meeting that I was a part of in February kind of outlined one of the largest underpinning concerns over Cass Gilbert's purpose around and the way that he saw the western side of the Capitol from the way that people approach it today, whether you're driving on University, whether you are riding on the light rail today, those same views with the current SOB proposal are going to be very much impacted. And I learned during our work session, just over a week ago that the reason that the state office building can't go up is because it cannot go above the shoulder of the state capitol, which is a great premise. That's a great principle. At the same time, when this juts out, the state office building further juts out into Leif Erikson Park, that will directly impact the views from folks entering the Capitol from the west going east. And I think it's worthy of discussion through the lens of that discussion, because during our working session, we saw other proposals. First time that I, as a member of this board or as a member of the House, had ever seen other proposals that had been presented that wouldn't do that. And frankly, I think that there was at least one proposal in those pictures, those images that I saw for less than 30 seconds that showed that we could renovate and even add to the current footprint of the building, but be within the current government zone for the structure. So and so there, I think there was an ability, and right now, for those of you who are just kind of envisioning that space, that's the space immediately north where there is sidewalk. There's kind of a smoking area, and it kind of runs in line with the entrances to that state office building parking ramp. And so I think that we could have met those principles. And when I look at the whole of kind of the work that Mr. Musty did and did a great job, I think that those are some of the largest concerns that I see with this. And a reason why I'm very concerned about the premise, and I'm not sure because we haven't reached necessarily that stage, but the way that this resolution is written. And I would suggest to our board here that we potentially vote on these individual initiatives one by one, and I think that might be a better way of going about it and a better way for us to be able to show support for the community as well.
Thank you, Representative Shaw.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if anybody else wants to speak, but I don't get in front of them.
Mr. Yang.
Sure. For me, in regards to the compliment, it really was, how do I do this? Balancing the additional new investments versus what we will be losing in coming to my decision. I do support this, but also share frustrations that have been shared. And I look to the time that we had around commemorative works and how this board approached that, especially around community engagement and conversation and inclusion of voices at all parts of the process. And so I do want to recognize what you shared, Ms. Hill, and just know that though overall in this moment, and I know Senator Bevis said don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, but for me, we are in a difficult moment, and we'll be supporting this, but really want to thank folks for sharing their own perspective and their voices and maybe not in an easy room, in an easy space, especially being new in one hour.
Thank you. Mr. McLean, Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I guess I just want to briefly reiterate, I think a number of the concerns that other members of the board have shared. For me and my support, not including the parking ramp structure in this discussion for me is a non-starter. It absolutely makes no sense from a best practices standpoint as a subject matter expert. I have so many concerns and not enough time to list them all. I think for me, my main struggle and my main timeline is not the next election cycle. It is the next 150 years that we're going to be stuck with something that we don't necessarily really want or deserve if we make the wrong decision. So that's all I really have to say at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett.
Thanks. I appreciate a lot of the comments. I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat too much. I really appreciated Bill's statement, and also a question that was in that statement, because ultimately, I certainly share the heartburn a lot of people have with kind of the process, how we got here. I think Ms. Badger last meeting talked about how do we make lemonade out of the somewhat of a lemon we've got here, which generally is my perspective, and I think we've done a really good job. I'm really excited about these investments, really in the kind of the economic development of the community, because I think it is sorely needed. But going back to I hope someone can speak to the question of like, if we don't do this now, is there a chance that it can be done in the next 5 years? Because what I don't want to see, as much as I kind of understand all the concerns, what I don't want to see is without any renovation of the office building and the investments, having to wait another 150 years to do those again. Which is why I'm leaning towards, like I said, if I look at this as an overall project, I think it would moving forward leave our capital area better. It would be progress, and I don't want to make the perfect enemy of the good and push this out another 100 years. So I was just hoping someone could speak to that. If we did take a little bit more time, is there an opportunity to do this? Because I also have an appreciation of the legislative process, and it's hard to get these projects done, and there has to be a lot of kind of compromise when we're thinking about these, and we need to kind of take these opportunities when we have them. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I want to see this continue to move forward, unless there is some opportunity to have more discussion. That's always good, but not if it's going to push progress out another 100 years.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Representative Cleaver, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, does anybody else want to speak before Steve? I just want to make sure. Okay, so I went back, looked at that very well. So I'd like to tell the committee what I've done as a whole, but in answer to your question, this resolution, which would authorize the bonds, ends December 31st of this year. And given the political environment that we currently are operating in, this goes to Ms. Hill's point, if we vote no today, the Senate office building the state office building is potentially at risk. No renovation money, no expansion money, nothing. Now, that's what's currently in law. Could something at a future date be passed? Your reading of the tea leaves, or however we want to say it, looking at the flag waving, whatever is as good as fine. It's kind of like the stock market. Past performance is no indication of future performance, right? So it would, in my mind, in the political environment that we have, listening to the debate on the floor in the last few days of just about the state government building, trying to get IT infrastructure. Why are we spending so much money? I cannot see that we will pass another resolution to allow this renovation or expansion in my time of service. That's what I would say. I went back and looked, and there was an opportunity at the time this resolution was passed to put in a notwithstanding clause, which would have totally bypassed the CAP board. I went back to see what did they put in there. The only thing that they bypassed on the CAP board is the competition phase. Everything else is within your jurisdiction. I've apologized publicly for the process. It wasn't a great process. It's not how I would have done it, but here I am today. To my honorable colleagues' comments that we should vote for these individually, I think that is not correct. I think we have to look at it as a complete package in my mind, not to be disrespectful. So what I have done since we had our walkthrough is I put on my tennis shoes and I walked the neighborhood and I looked at the vantage point of the Capitol from many different places. Will it block the view of some homes? Yes, it will. But, you know, also the McDonald's blocks the view. Also, other buildings block the view. I've taken my time to go and eat at the restaurants, whether it's Vietnamese or whatever, up and down University in the last 2 weeks, and to look at the individuals who are coming in and to think about the neighborhood experience and to see how would this investment in the vitality of the community impact the neighborhood. I think the comprehensive package, making the Capitol Mall, as Executive Secretary Smith said, an inviting place with trees, tying the north to the south of University Avenue. It seems to stop at Rice Street, and there's no reason for it to stop at Rice Street. Just on the other side of the admin building, you have a fabulous lookout in Parkford. As when I walked it, I mean, to stand there and look at it at night and to see the majesty of the Capitol there, nobody's using it. To have Leif Erikson Park as it is today, no benches. People are not coming in there. People are not recreating there. People are not picnicking there. That's not happening. Even when we have rallies there, they're cramped, they're spaced, they're in one little corner, which, by the way, in the photos is still green space, right? Because they want to be as close to that western staircase as possible. To me, the biggest design flaw is the loss of the western staircase to the park. And that's what I would say. But overall, the comprehensive package and what it would bring to the community and the tremendous legislators that you have right now advocating for the community, whether it's Maria Isa or Samakab Hussain or Senator Pappas, and those of us who are willing to make the commitment to say, I'm here today, I'm giving you my word, I will do everything within my power to get this legislation through. I don't know of a better time for the community than we have right now to do this work. And I believe in Lemonade and your statement that decisions made in fear are bad decisions, 100% correct, 100% correct. But here we are today, and man, we've got a beautiful package in front of us and an opportunity to make whoever develops that Sears site tie it in with the framework and the plan that's going to come forward. It's an awesome opportunity for the next 50 years for this community, maybe the next 100.
With respect, Representative Claiborne, I just want to point out that the waiving of the competition requirement.
I'm just saying it's in there. That's yeah.
Right. But between that and where we are today, would be a process of design for the addition. And that is absolutely something that the CAP board should have been engaged in, and where our role, more importantly, would be engaging, bringing other people to the table so that that conversation about design includes lots of different folks. So
I would have been in favor of a competition design personally. I'm just saying when I read it, I was surprised that that was there.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yes, I'm very, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? So I would like to weigh in here for a moment, if I may. Thank you, first of all, just to CAP board staff for the incredible attention and care and detail work that you do all the time, but that you have taken with this. It truly has been phenomenal, and trust your analysis. So thank you for that. I'm grateful for the focus on updating the state office building as it relates to the comprehensive plan for the capital area, but also to the public experience generally with that space. I think we have collectively talked about as a CAP board wanting to make sure that the capital area itself, the capital itself, is welcoming, a place where people feel seen and heard and valued, and being able to be in a space that lends itself to that more fully, I think is powerful. As well as the safety of the public and the safety of the members. As I said before, as a former member of the House, that is a real issue. And I think as we have seen over the last several years has become, as politics become more rough and tumble, that the safety and security of members and the public are even more important in this day and age. But I do want to name that this process has not been ideal. And I'm proud of the CAP board, and I am proud of the work that we did over the last several years together with a real focus on community engagement, even during the heat of the pandemic, doing things virtually, but still being able to reach folks all across the state of Minnesota. The work that we did, the rulemaking that occurred, that I feel is truly the heart and the essence of who we should be as a CAP board. And there is some absolutely tension between that example that I think is the best of what we can do in the moment that we currently find ourselves in. So I want to name that. And Ms. Hills, I want to just thank you for your statement, your courage, and your role and responsibility that you have taken on as a community representative. You do it very well. So thank you. It matters. And know that we will continue to talk to you as we go forward. I care deeply about the accessibility of our halls of power, and you heard, last week what just a decades-long challenge it has been and the conditions to fix this building, and remembering Representative Dean, who ceiling fell in and water damage, and all of these additional pieces, but. This package of proposals, presents us with an opportunity to help update the capital in a positive way for the future. And I want to remind people that this is a step in next steps, and that we will have more engagement as well. But just generally, I will be in support of this. I also believe that we should do the resolution as a whole. That would be my recommendation. But I do hear the concerns. They resonate with me, and we are in a tough position, but I believe that we do have an opportunity here to try to do the best with what we've got. So with that, I think there's been quite a bit of a discussion. Yeah,
One question.
Yes.
In looking at how the process was bypassed, or intentionally or unintentionally, is there any work that can be done to keep, knowing this kind of project won't come along for another 100 years, hopefully, that people who do projects on this campus know that this exists? I know that that's a problem, that people just don't know that this board exists. And then also I know Mr. Musty does a lot of work when he sits down with people to inform people of what this is. And I'm just curious if there's like a more comprehensive way to do that, so it's not this again.
So I think the short answer is yes. And I believe that we have developed collectively some recommendations as to how we want to do community engagements as a board as a whole. And there's an opportunity for that, and absolutely want you to be a part of that. So yes. Vice Chair Badgerow.
Madam Chair, I think we're at the point where I would like to move. The resolution has been proposed by staff. I think we've heard some wonderful arguments. And in terms of the relevance of the CAP board, nothing proves its relevance more than the fact that these amazing proposals are coming forward in compromise to make this a reality and to make the capital area enhanced overall. So I move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
And it's been moved and seconded. Is there any final discussion? Okay, I will now take the roll. I, as chair, vote aye. Vice Chair Badgerow.
Aye.
Dr. Bean.
Aye.
Ms. Belton.
Nay.
Mr. Garrett.
I abstain.
Ms. Hills.
Nay.
Representative Cleburne.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Senator Pappas.
Aye.
Representative Schultz.
Nay.
Mr. Yang.
Aye.
The motion does prevail. Thank you very much. I know that this has been a difficult process and discussion, and this was a challenging but really important meeting. I know that we've worked really closely with CAP board staff who continue to do so, and have been so grateful for your good work in answering questions, and know that as we continue the next steps, that there's quite a bit of more work that needs to occur as we're moving forward. So thank you for that. We have an opportunity. The subject of our meeting so far today has occupied much of the staff's time in recent weeks. The executive secretary has some other updates as well. If you'd like to walk through those, please.
Yes. Thanks. Okay. So just a reminder, this is the timeline we shared at our March meeting. So upcoming, Mr. Muskie has been engaged in consultation with stakeholders about the package of capital area projects in the state office building to make sure people have good information and to hear any ideas or questions. And we have now gotten through E, which is the board decision on comp plan compliance. So now we will proceed with the rulemaking process to do a rezoning for the property in Lee Erickson Park that will become a building. We will be looking to the Department of Administration to submit a zoning application as well as that rezoning application. And then we would be looking at zoning and design reviews in the summer and issuance of a certificate of design compliance by the fall. Construction for the project is hoped to begin by the end of 2023. Oh. Yeah. So if you wanted to, you thought it took a lot to get to here, just kind of look ahead of the timeline.
I'm glad to see that you are committed to wayfinding.
Yes, please. And did you want me to talk about other updates?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. And hopefully some of you have seen Scylla out there. I have started to see them even though it's still snowing. Next slide. All right. So as we wind down fiscal year 23, we surprisingly have a little extra funding left in our budget And so I am putting together 3, possibly 4 small contracts to do some work that I think would be really valuable to the organization at this time. The top left is an agency performance evaluation. So this is like a 360 review where you can ask all sorts of different people that know you and interact with you, how you're doing on your job. Well, this would be doing the same thing for the organization. So consultants would talk to people we work with a lot, people maybe that just only know us a little bit, and figure out, what are we doing well? How might we communicate who we are better? And that person would make a recommendation to the board. Top right, strategic communication services. I think the emphasis here is really going to be on figuring out how we better let people know who we are and that we exist. And also thinking about if these legislative efforts indeed move forward, just a little bit, how do we start to have messages around that great work ahead? Bottom left, we'd really like a little extra help to put together this extremely important request for proposals for the capital mall plan. And so just asking a couple of people to help us really detail that out to make sure we get the right team. And then bottom right is getting some updated demographic analysis. So as we head into these initiatives, we want to make sure we really understand who's in the community, how is it succeeding? Where are there
Typo in there.
Oh, man. Wow. It's been a long
We'll just say live.
Wow, okay. It's been a very long week. I apologize. That was supposed to say live. Anyway, so.
Next slide.
I think, we have so much work ahead potentially that's going to be really exciting. And I think if we can go into it, having a really great understanding of how to do our best work, that's going to be great. Next. And then just a quick reminder on the items that are moving forward in the governor's budget for our agency. Looking at just to maintain our current service levels, an additional $75,000 for 24 and $90,000 for FY25. We're really hoping we can bring on more staff, probably like interns, or more admin help. We have a lot of work ahead. We need to do a mandatory update of our zoning code, make sure it's still consistent with the comprehensive plan. And those are, legal zoning consultants. There's $500,000 to assist applicants who are working on commemorative works proposals that have been accepted, and addressing a big concern identified by the task forces for commemorative works that these works can be extremely expensive and they are always paid for by the applicant. Every now and then they get appropriation money, but largely it's a private fundraising effort. And some applicants are going to have more wealthy friends than others. So this can help supplement applicants in need. And then finally, that capital mall design framework. All right, so preview FY24. Our office is moving at the end of June. We are going to be going to the Centennial Office Building in an interim space for a year or so until we find a more permanent location. We want to thank Department of Administration who's been working with us to figure out how we'll configure that space, how we'll move all our stuff there. So we're really glad that we've identified that space, and we'll now have a window that looks right out on the mall. So as we have our meetings about things, we can all look out the window and point. We have our special projects that will be coming forward if the legislation moves forward, and potentially some commemorative work applications could be coming. And in all of this, there are going to be so many opportunities for board members to join task forces or committees or come to community meetings, whatever it is. So I hope you'll see that as exciting. And then I mentioned the potential hiring. Thanks. Here, any really big, exciting planning or project updates or questions?
Nothing that I can, thank you, Secretary Clapp-Smith. I would just say that Bethesda, the new hospital proposed a timeline for demolition and new construction. It will hopefully be a seamless process. We've gotten an update from Fairview Acadia that it could happen in the next few weeks, the starting of demolition. They've gone through an abatement process, which to take a lot of the hazardous materials out. So when you do demolish, it's not going to, really affect the neighborhood. That's a pretty dense building. So they've gone through a big process of kind of cleaning it out. And now the demolition is about to happen, and that will roll straight into new construction of the behavioral health hospital, which will be a wonderful addition back into the neighborhood to have those jobs and that activity. That's fun. That's I think the major update right now. I think there are other big projects coming, but we've already talked about a lot of big projects today. So.
Yeah. Want to give a big thank you to everybody on the board and folks in this room from the House, Department of Admin, City of St. Paul, Historical Society. Lots of work and thought has gone into evaluating the state office building proposal, looking at the legislative initiatives. And today was a big and important milestone. I personally am so excited if these legislative efforts move forward, because the opportunities to work with community and stakeholders on these things is so exciting. And I've been in planning my whole career, and I have always found that the best and most interesting ideas and conversations come from community members. And so I think we have a lot of, hopefully, really fun work ahead.
Absolutely. Ms. Badro, you've had your hand raised.
I do. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I don't want the meeting to conclude without some recognition of the impact that this entire process has had on the staff. To me, they are models of resilience. The fact that they have approached this issue with creativity, open-mindedness, solution-seeking, thoroughness for certain, and collaboration is just, to me, remarkable. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't go on the record to commend staff for their amazing work that they have done these past few months.
Put it in the record. Speaking of the record, this is our last piece of the meeting here. Is just we have a few minutes to approve. So you have minutes in your packet from August 24th, 2022, January 27th, and the March 8th meeting. Are there any corrections?
I know you read
Representative Schultz, are there any corrections?
Through the first minute.
That's right. So that's right, actually. So let's, is there a motion to approve the minutes from August 24th, 2022? So motion. You can't do it. I can't. Darn.
We weren't here.
So, yes, thank you, Mr. McLean. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. I will now take the roll. Ms. Badro.
Aye.
Dr. Bean.
Aye.
Ms. Belton.
Aye.
Mr. Garrett.
Aye.
Let's see. Yep, Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Senator Pappas. She is left, which is okay. And Mr. Yang.
Aye.
Okay, those pass. January 27th and March 8th, we should be able to move together.
I'll move the adoption of those minutes.
Thank you so much.
Attendance at both.
Yes, so it's been moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Perfect, Mr. McLean. So now the vote on the minutes from January 27th and March 8th of 2023. Ms. Badro.
Aye.
Dr. Bean. Oop, Dr. Bean.
Aye.
Ms. Felton.
Aye.
Mr. Garrett.
Aye.
Ms. Hills.
Aye.
Representative Cleburne.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Senator Pappas. Representative Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Yang.
Aye.
And as chair, I also vote aye. The meetings are passed. Thank you so much. And hanging over our heads a little bit, so I appreciate that. So that brings us to the end of our business today. Thank you all for your time and attention. I don't know if any members have any closing comments or remarks that they'd like to make.
Let me just say, I am fully committed to working with the board and getting whatever we need to get through the legislature and through the legislature. And again, I know that this has been a difficult process, and I just thank everyone.
Thank you so much. So with that, the executive secretary will be in touch about the timing of our next full board meeting, likely later this spring. So thank you so much, and we are adjourned. Angela, you. Yes.
See you guys back in the cities.
Feel well.
Thank you as well.
Are you going?